All right, welcome to today's explainer. So, if you're a homeowner, you definitely know the struggle. I'm talking about the universal, absolute hassle of manual watering. You know the drill, dragging a heavy, muddy hose all across the yard, standing out there for what feels like hours, and trying to remember, wait, did I water the side garden yesterday or was that Tuesday? It's exhausting. But what if I told you that automating this whole process doesn't have to be some massive bank-breaking ordeal? Today, we are demystifying DIY irrigation. We're going to dive into some incredible insights from hardcore DIYers, and we'll take a journey all the way from super simple, budget-friendly above-ground setups to fully permanent, pro-level underground manifolds. Let's jump right in. Okay, take a second and think about this number, $7,000. I really wanted to start with this because this is the exact real-world quote one homeowner actually received when they priced out a professional irrigation install for their yard, $7,000. I mean, for a lot of us, seeing a price tag like that immediately shuts down the dream of ever having an automated lawn. But this is where it actually gets really exciting. Let's contrast that massive professional quote with a highly effective, completely automated DIY setup. The sources we're looking at today prove that you can actually build a fully functioning system for under $500, literally a fraction of the cost. And we aren't just talking about saving money up front either. A lot of folks find that even professionally installed heads get misaligned or they burst, and suddenly you're paying for another expensive service call. Meanwhile, a budget DIY system using simple copper splitters, smart hose timers, and durable above-ground hoses, well, it puts the control and the cash entirely back in your hands. To break this down, today's explainer is structured as a sort of modular spectrum. We're going to cover planning your irrigation strategy, the budget above-ground system, installing permanent underground lines, choosing the right heads, and finally, perfecting the valve assembly. The best part is you can mix and match any of these solutions depending on exactly what your yard and your wallet needs. Starting off with Section 1, planning your irrigation strategy, specifically calculating your flow rate and pressure. Because look, every single successful project has to start with finding your water supply. Before you go out and buy a single pipe or sprinkler head, you absolutely have to know what your home's water supply can actually handle. First up, hook a simple pressure gauge to your spigot to check your PSI. Ideally, you're looking for something right around 60. Then you do the classic bucket test. It's super simple. Grab a standard 5-gallon bucket and time exactly how many seconds it takes to fill it up with the water turned on full blast. From there, it's just a little bit of math. Multiply your 5 gallons by 60 seconds, and then divide that by the number of seconds it took to fill. So if it took 20 seconds, your flow rate is about 15 gallons per minute. This one little calculation is totally crucial because it dictates exactly how many sprinkler heads you can safely run on a single zone without losing your water pressure. Moving on to Section 2, the budget above-ground system. Quick, easy, and under $500. If you're looking for a quick, affordable weekend project, this above-ground method is definitely your sweet spot. But, you know, there's a catch, highlighted perfectly by this quote from one of our DIY sources. When you try to run an above-ground system using those cheap standard green garden hoses and just leave them out in the yard permanently, well, nature takes its course. Small animals like voles will literally chew right through the rubber just to get a drink of water. It leaves you with these hilarious but incredibly frustrating little chew marks and burst hoses everywhere. Basically, regular garden hoses just aren't cut out for permanent yard duty. So the real trick here is making a few smart material upgrades. Our sources overwhelmingly recommend ditching the rubber entirely and upgrading to bionic steel garden hoses. These things are bite-proof, weather-resistant, pretty much indestructible. You just attach them to a copper splitter at your spigot, run the steel hoses through your garden beds so they're hidden, and pair them up with Orbit gear drive sprinkler heads. Toss a Melnor automatic timer onto the spigot, and boom. Suddenly you have a completely automated, leak-free, totally pest-proof irrigation system for under $500. And honestly, the absolute best part is you didn't have to dig a single trench to do it. But let's look at Section 3, installing permanent underground lines. Digging in for a permanent solution. What if you do want to dig, right? What if you're ready to commit to a truly invisible permanent setup? Well, the undisputed gold standard for DIY underground plumbing is Schedule 40 PVC. You're going to need to dig a trench about 8 to 12 inches deep across your yard. Quick aside though, if you live in an area that gets freezing winters, you absolutely must plan a way to blow out or drain these lines before the freeze. Otherwise, they will rupture. Anyway, you lay out your 3/4-inch Schedule 40 PVC right into the trench, and wherever you want a sprinkler head to pop up, you just use a T-joint with a threaded outlet to tee off that main line.
Now, the real secret to making sure this underground system never leaks is all in how you glue it up. You have to use a purple PVC primer on every single piece before applying your PVC cement. When you push the pipes together, give them a slight twist. That essentially melts and welds the plastic together into a permanent watertight bond. Also, it is absolutely critical that you connect your system to the main water supply using an anti-siphon zone valve. This is a safety feature that ensures dirty yard water can never accidentally backflow and contaminate your home's drinking water. Finally, walk away. Let the whole system cure for at least 30 minutes before you even think about turning on the water to check for leaks.
Which brings us to Section 4, choosing the right heads, pop-ups versus rotors.
So once your pipes are happily buried, you have to decide how the water is actually going to hit your grass. You basically have two choices, your standard fan spray pop-ups or gear-driven rotors. Our sources strongly recommend spending a little extra to upgrade to rotors. Those are the ones that swing back and forth, from reputable brands like Hunter or Rainbird. Why? Well, for one, they give you much better head-to-head coverage, which guarantees you won't have any dry, dead patches in the lawn. But here's the real kicker. Standard pop-up heads have these tiny little filters inside them that are notoriously prone to clogging. If you live anywhere near a beach with a shallow well that pulls up sandy water, those pop-ups are going to clog up constantly, and you'll be out there digging them up to clean them every single year. Rotors handle that kind of debris way better and will save you a massive amount of maintenance time.
Oh, and here is a massive pro tip that will save your brand new equipment. Funny pipe. Instead of screwing your expensive new sprinkler head directly into that rigid underground PVC we just laid, you use a short piece of flexible half-inch tubing called funny pipe to connect them. This flexibility is a game changer. It allows you to easily raise, lower, or tilt the sprinkler head so it sits perfectly flush with the level of the ground. Because think about it, if that head sits even a little too high, your lawnmower is going to absolutely obliterate it the first time you cut the grass. Funny pipe gives you that essential wiggle room to get the height exactly right. And finally, Section 5, perfecting the valve assembly, building a leak-proof manifold. This manifold is basically the heart of a multi-zone system. It's command central for controlling exactly where your water goes. If you want this valve manifold to look neat and professional, instead of like some tangled, leaky mess, you've got to follow this specific math. Cut your connecting PVC pieces into exact 2-inch lengths. Why? Because the fittings, things like your elbows and T's, they have an insertion depth of about 7/8 of an inch on each side. So a 2-inch piece of pipe leaves just the perfect amount of exposed space for your bulky valves to sit perfectly side by side without cramping each other. It ensures the whole manifold is structurally solid and looks incredibly clean. Actually assembling this manifold requires a really logical sequence. First things first, install your Y filter and pressure reducer onto the valves before you start gluing anything together. Trust me, they are incredibly hard to twist on once all that plumbing is locked in place. Next, use a medium-bodied clear cement for the manifold. It gives a really neat look and won't leave sloppy red or blue streaks all over your beautiful new setup. Now, this is the absolute most important step. When you assemble your back line of T's and elbows, you have to push them together on a hard, flat surface. If you try to just hold them in the air and glue them, your pieces will dry slightly crooked and your entire manifold will end up warped. Don't do it. Finally, let the whole thing sit for a minimum of 2 to 4 hours, especially if it's under 70 degrees outside. Do not rush the cure time here. Now, I absolutely love this next tip. It's just a brilliant, simple hack. When you're out there in the dirt, wrestling with pipes in a trench, you are inevitably going to knock over your expensive cans of primer and cement. It literally happens to everyone. To prevent this, just take some standard duct tape, tape the two cans together, and put them inside a small plastic tote with your fittings. It creates this nice, wide, stable base so they won't tip over. It keeps your yard free of toxic glue spills and saves you from buying replacement cement. So we've walked through the entire spectrum today, all the way from a $500 bionic steel above-ground setup that requires absolutely zero trenching, right up to a professionally crafted multi-zone PVC underground manifold. And you know, the really beautiful thing about DIY irrigation is that it isn't some all-or-nothing game. You can start small, automate your watering, and finally get your summer weekends back. So take a look out of your own yard and ask yourself, are you team above ground budget or team underground PVC? Which DIY system is going to save your summer lawn? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you're leaving feeling empowered to go out and tackle your own irrigation project.